Hello everyone, this is Nerdy Eye, and in this episode, we will be explaining the hidden meanings and metaphors behind every episode of Love, Death, and Robots Season 2. So let's get right into it. Starting with the first episode, Automated Customer Service. This episode is a very satirical take on many movies like The Matrix and The Terminator, where machines try to kill humans, as well as how we are becoming more and more dependent on machines and microtransactions. We start the episode in a town full of old people who are dependent on robots to get everything done. Our protagonist in this episode is an old lady with a vacuum house cleaning bot named VacuBot. This bot later transforms into a bloodthirsty Terminator-esque killing machine. To stop the VacuBot, the lady calls the automated customer support because waiting time for a human representative was over 6 freaking hours. I can bet we have all been here. The automated voice keeps offering useless advices, taking a dig at how we rarely get any useful advice when we call customer support in real life. The episode also asks viewers a question whether you are controlling the technology or the technology is controlling you. Much like Tyler Durden's statement in Fight Club, the things that you own end up owning you, which is implied by the scene where the old lady moves a photo frame, but the vacuubot doesn't let her, indicating that it's the vacuubot who is in control and not the old lady. This is a totally legitimate question considering how over dependent we are becoming on technology and how things like social media and advertisements can manipulate our thinking. There is also a rather funny scene that is a direct reference to The Matrix, where the lady dodges the taser darts from the vacuubot, similar to how Neo dodges the bullets fired by the agents in the first Matrix movie. When she finally takes out the vacuubot, the customer service tells her that now all the vacuubots in the area will start chasing her to kill, and she can buy a subscription in order to avoid that. This scene is taking a jibe at how, as the technology advances, the big companies are trying to milk every possible avenue that there is, and how we are paying for as basic a necessity as water. To which Lady replies, "Go to hell," showing that she is defying the control of machines. Now it's time for the second episode, Ice. This episode follows two brothers, Fletcher being the younger one and the elder one being Sedge. This story also takes place in the future where humans have inhabited other planets and have mastered genetic modifications for gaining superhuman abilities. This episode is the representation of how people are simply not equal. We saw in the episode that Sedge is one of the rarest people because he isn't modified, and most of the people in the world are. So Sedge is the one who isn't equal to the rest of the world. We always love to say that all humans are equal, but in reality, all humans are not equal. Some people are born ugly, short, some with innate conditions, and some with disabilities. Not everyone gets to win the genetic lottery, and the ones who get the short stick have to work extra hard, harder than everyone else to level the playing field. It is a reality that people often decide to overlook, but it is a hard truth, and this episode represents that in a very beautifully animated scene. The blue and black theme of the episode really went well with the animation style. And if you did not notice, Fletcher was acting that his leg got hurt to push his brother beyond his limits so he feels included in Logan's crew and they respect him. By the way, if you're liking this video so far, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The tall grass. This episode did not have any sort of deeper meaning to it, other than the fact that it looked like a direct take on Stephen King's book, In the Tall Grass, where people get stuck in the infinite grass field by an entity who had the ability to control time. Another hidden meaning to this episode could be how people who could not adapt with time and modernization get left behind and sadly forgotten. The creatures in the grass representing the forgotten people. If you managed to find any other hidden meaning in this episode, please let us know in the comments. Pop Squad. This is going to be the most loved episode of season 2, like we had Beyond the Aquila Rift in season 1. The first thing we noticed right away is that its style is inspired by Blade Runner. The story takes place in a time where people are given the opportunity to live forever, but in turn they have to agree to never have children. The protagonist of this episode is a police officer whose job is to find and kill these people who are having kids, whom he so disparagingly calls as breeders. But killing all these children takes a toll on his head. Metaphorically, this episode can be linked to various real world scenarios like wealth imbalance, where wealthy people can afford to throw parties daily while the poor are just trying to make a living, or how a certain faction of people are demonized by the TV and media so we don't feel bad when something bad is being done to them. But we think that the biggest message in the episode was it does not matter how long you live, but how you live. And immortality is more of a curse than blessing. We see that all the people who have opted for living forever are just kind of narcissistic. This is represented when the lady living in the woods says that she's not so much in love with herself that she'd want to live forever, stating that she has grown out of her narcissism. While in earlier days people took joy in raising children and passing down their legacy, cherishing the time they had. But on here, it seems as if the world has stopped. In another scene, a woman named Alice says that she, quote unquote, spent 20 years to master a solo. It shows that things have remained quite stagnant for some time now. It is the same people just stuck in a loop because they have all the time in the world. This represents the long lasting notion in fiction that immortality is actually a curse in disguise. If you won't die, does life even have any sort of meaning to it? Are we still going to be motivated to do things? This is heavily emphasized when Alice jokes about marrying and having kids with the protagonist, and he sees blood on his hands. This makes him think, what is he even living for? Just killing children. If we look at it through the lens of evolution, for every organism, the main purpose is their physical survival and their genetic survival. If you take away any of those, is life even complete? Another theme that isn't as prominent as immortality is that of overpopulation. To put it morbidly, we can't keep letting people into the party if no one ever leaves, indicating how the advancement in medical technology has caused death rates to go down dramatically, resulting in way more births than deaths. Another detail that people miss in this episode is that aging is not being stopped to live forever. They are, in fact, reversing aging. This can be seen when Alice goes to take her dose of the serum. We can see the markings and imperfections on her face starting to disappear all through the house. This episode is the funniest one and also the shortest one in the series. Just like the tall grass, we don't think there is any deep meaning to this episode other than a few minor ones. First, being how we should not judge people on their physical appearances like looks, height, and race, because these are things people have no control over. In this episode, Santa Claus was a slimy, xenomorph looking creature, but he was still bringing gifts for kids. Another thing that can be interpreted with this episode is how all of our folklores might actually be somewhat true, but not in the way they were written. Season 2, Episode 6, Life in the Hutch. This episode is very similar to automated customer support and represents pretty much same ideas. This one is just very dark and grim compared to the first episode and also had the best CGI in the whole series along with Snow in the Desert. While the first episode was a take at Terminator and Matrix, this episode looked more like a take on Alien and reminded us of Alien Isolation. Being stuck in the space with a thing that's out there that's relentlessly trying to kill you gave a very alien-esque feel. Here's a question for you guys. Do you think that the warning at the end of episode saying maintenance robot malfunction was to indicate that the robot might still be active? Tell us in the comments below. Snow in the desert. Just like Life in the Hutch, this episode also represents the same idea seen in one of the previous episodes with a few changes. This episode follows Snow, who had incredible regenerative abilities, much like Deadpool or Wolverine, that made him immortal, and Hyrule being a cyborg blessed with extended life. The same idea of immortality and existentialism can be seen in this episode like Pop Squad, as how it is better to have a sorted, fulfilling life than a long, bland life. When Snow tells Harold that his wife killed herself because she grew old and he did not, but unlike Pop Squad, this episode has a happy ending with Snow and Harold getting together, being perfect for each other because of their extended lives. Going on to the final episode of Volume 2, The Drowned Giant. The last episode in the series is also the most philosophical one, and the more you look at it, the more details you will find. The episode is clearly a take on how whales get washed up on the shores around the world. Also, the episode holds some degree of similarity with Gulliver's Travels and a poem called Ozymandias. This episode represents that things that are regarded as wonderful and marvelous eventually die and decay like the rest of the things. And after death and decay, the area will be the same. When the giant is washed onto the shore, people were interested in him, but as the time passed, the number of visitors started decreasing, and eventually came a time when no one came to visit. Even though the giant is a corpse, people play on it through graffitis, click pictures, possibly showing that even after death, you can still be useful for someone somewhere, like microorganisms consuming the dead body. This is again reiterated when the scientist mentions the mutilation of Colossus by tiny creatures around it, as a reference to how bacteria and other microorganisms consume away the dead body. With time, people forgot about the corpse of the giant, but pieces of him began resurfacing across the town, possibly showing how after our death, our body becomes one with the nature and the matter that made us will still keep influencing the surroundings. In a broad sense, this episode remains very close to Ozymandias. Quoting a part of the poem, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty in despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck. Boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away." Before we end this video, here is a little detail that I bet most of you did not notice. The episode Pop Squad and Drowned Giant take place in the same universe. We can say that because we can see Ipswich collectibles in both of these episodes. This indicated that Pop Squad is the future of Drowned Giant. This is a very nice contrast because Pop Squad talks about immortality while the Drowned Giant, on the contrary, talks about mortality. Each one of these episodes contains so much detail that a whole video can be made easily. If you want a full detailed breakdown of any of these episodes, let us know in the comments. And finally, if you like this video, then hit the like button. If you dislike it, then dislike it. And don't forget to subscribe. Be seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.